Julien Alfred just did something inside London Stadium that nobody saw coming. Gabby Thomas, the Olympic 200-meter champion, had the lead and the finish line in sight. Then Alfred appeared at her shoulder. What she did next stunned the entire crowd for the second time in 9 days, and what she admitted after the race should scare every sprinter alive. On Saturday, July 18, 2026, the Novuna London Athletics meet, the 11th stop of the Diamond League season, turned into one of the wildest days of track and field in years. Josh Kerr smashed a 27-year-old world record in the mile, running 3:42, 66 in front of a roaring home crowd. But for sprint fans, everything centered on the women's 200 meters, because Julien Alfred and Gabby Thomas were sharing a start line once again. The field around them was loaded with champions. Two-time Olympic 400-meter winner Shaunae Miller-Uibo lined up next to British stars Dina Asher-Smith and Amy Hunt. When the gun fired, Alfred burst out of her blocks. Thomas answered through the bend, pulled slightly ahead, and carried a small lead through the 120-meter mark. For a moment, the race looked exactly like the Olympic final in Paris all over again. Then the home straight opened up. Alfred found a level of speed that nobody else on the track could touch. She drew level with Thomas, then powered clear through the line. The clock froze at 21.66 seconds, run into almost still air of just 0.1 meters per second. That made it a new meeting record, lowering her own mark from the previous summer and the second fastest race of her entire career. Thomas crossed in 21.81 for second. Miller-Uibo took third in 22.24, Asher-Smith fourth in 22.28, and Hunt fifth in 22.30. But the detail that should worry the rest of the sprinting world came after the race. Alfred admitted she had barely felt like competing at all. She told reporters she did not even want to run that day. Her coach reminded her that London was the final stop before a break back home in Saint Lucia. So she showed up tired, ran 21.66, and beat the Olympic champion anyway. Her explanation afterward was calm and confident. She said she never panicked in the middle of the race because she knows exactly what she is capable of right now. To understand why this result cuts so deep for Thomas, you have to rewind 2 full years, back to a July night on this exact track in East London. The two sprinters first met over 200 meters at the Monaco Diamond League in July of 2023, when Alfred was a young professional fresh out of the University of Texas. She finished ahead of Thomas that night. For almost 3 years afterward, it stood as her only victory over the American at this distance. Then came the summer of 2024, when Thomas took full control of the rivalry. On July 20th, 2024, at the London Diamond League 1 week before the Paris Games, Thomas hunted down the field in the closing strides and won in 21.82, a meeting record at the time. Alfred settled for second in 21.86, which was then a national record for Saint Lucia. The message heading into Paris felt obvious. At those Olympics, both women climbed to the top of the sport in different events. On August 3, 2024, Alfred blasted to 100-meter gold in 10.72 seconds, winning the very first Olympic medal in the history of Saint Lucia, an island nation of around 180,000 people. 3 nights later, on August 6, 2024, on the purple track at Stade de France, Thomas delivered her answer. She won the 200-meter final in 21.83, with Alfred taking silver in 22.28 and Brittany Brown grabbing bronze. Thomas described that gold medal as something beyond her wildest dreams, so the scoreboard at the end of 2024 read simply, Alfred ruled the 100 meters. Thomas ruled the 200 meters. And in their shared event, the American had won the 2 biggest races of the year, including the only one that truly matters on this planet. The 2025 season then pulled them onto completely different roads. Thomas injured her Achilles tendon in May of 2025, then made it worse in July. She qualified for the World Championships in Tokyo, but withdrew before the meet to protect her long-term health, and she spent the back half of the year rehabbing instead of racing. Alfred, meanwhile, kept climbing. On July 19, 2025, she returned to London and crushed the 200-meter field in 21.71, a personal best at the time and a meeting record, run into a headwind. She added a bronze medal at the Tokyo World Championships and lifted the Diamond League final trophy before the season closed. So heading into 2026, the entire sport was asking one question. What happens when a healthy Gabby Thomas finally meets this upgraded version of Julien Alfred? Before we get to that answer, if you are enjoying this breakdown, hit subscribe, because this channel covers the biggest sprint rivalries and racing stories every single week. Now let's talk about the night in Monaco that rewrote the record books. On Friday, July 10th, 2026, inside the Stade Louis II in Monaco, the rematch that track fans had circled all season finally arrived. That same evening, Emmanuel Wanyonyi shattered the 1,000-meter world record on the Monaco track, so history was clearly floating in the air. Thomas came in looking sharp, having opened her comeback with a world-leading 21.70 in Texas earlier in the year. Alfred came in quietly promising that something special was on the way. The two champions were locked together off the curve and into the final straight. Then Alfred pulled away from everybody. She crossed the line in 21.51 seconds with a legal tailwind of 0.9 meters per second. Sit with that number for a moment. It was a world lead, a meeting record, and a national record for Saint Lucia, slicing 2 full tenths off her previous best of 21.71. It also stands as the 5th fastest 200-meter time ever recorded by a woman, and it lifted Alfred to 3rd on the all-time list. Only Florence Griffith Joyner, with her world record of 21.34 from Seoul on September 29, 1988, and Shericka Jackson, with her 21.41 from the Budapest World Championships on August 25, 2023, have ever run faster. Elaine Thompson-Herros' famous 21.53 now sits behind her. Alfred stared at the giant scoreboard in Monaco and screamed the same way she screamed after her Olympic gold in Paris. She admitted she had been hoping to see a 21.6 and got a 21.5 instead. Then she summed up her entire season in 6 words. There are no limits right now. Thomas, meanwhile, finished 3rd in 21.84 because the rising star Adeja Hodge of the British Virgin Islands squeezed between the two champions in 21.76. 4 days later, on Tuesday, July 14th, in Budapest, the rivals raced apart from each other. Alfred won the 100 meters in 10.87, while Thomas took the 200 meters in 21.83. The stage for London was fully set. So where does the rivalry stand after that Saturday in London? Give Thomas real credit, because she handled the defeat like a champion. She said she was not thrilled with 2nd place, but planned to fly home with her head held high. She pointed to her gear changes over the final stretch as the exact thing she wants to fix in training. She also called Alfred a talented and incredible competitor, which tells you the respect between these two runs deep. And remember, her lifetime best of 21.60 still keeps her among the 5 fastest women in history. Nobody should ever count out an Olympic champion, but the momentum belongs entirely to the woman from Castries. Alfred has won 3 races in 9 days across 3 different countries, and she owns the 2 fastest 200-meter times run anywhere in the world this year,